Hey, how's it going? I don't know how well this is gonna work. Rigged up one of my contraptions again. Cause I like my tripod, but I have to take the phone case off. And now that now that I have this on here, it's not really wanting to detach. So well, the only reason I was gonna take it down was to show the signs. So I'm gonna move my big fat head out of the way, and then I would like you to see what's on them. So I would ask that you expand the picture and pause. But basically, what it says is the opinion commentary. I will probably talk about some form of entertainment media and spoil it. Is that too loud? I want to get dinged for, copyright thing, but I mean, I need some background sounds. So, anyway, and also stuff about there being more commentary that goes along with the video in the information / description box. So, I still like thinking about the stuff that's been happening, but I'm noticing with the ongoing Diddy stuff, it's not just about him, it's about like all these other people, and it seems to be like I don't know, everybody in the entertainment industry has to like go to these weird icky parties and debase themselves. There's a lot of speculation behind what goes on at those types of things and why, and it sounds a lot like devil worship to me. I'm dying. I mean, not that I'm an expert on that, but one thing I think I know about it, like I'm pretty sure it's one of the tenets of it, and I don't mean the Church of Satan, I mean like devil worship, because I think those are two different things. But I'm talking about where you're like, black magic basically, which, I don't know about that really. Like, how much of it is intent, and then like, you want something negative to happen to someone, and then like, what is driving it? Like, how much actual physical work? It doesn't matter. Who cares? It's like I don't even want to do that or have anything to do with it, but people do. So, but that is just terrible. It's like you work so hard and you think you want to be rich and famous, and then it turns out when you get there, it's terrible. Now I'm starting to think like this is why so many of them, you may have a propensity or an addictive personality, but many people can go through life with that and not have their lives destroyed. But I think of so many famous people that are like nutty or on drugs or both. I mean, right now, Britney Spears and Andy Dick come to mind. But I also wonder about Kanye West. It's like there's so much crosstalk amongst the people kind of involved in it. They're all like trying to temper what degree to which they're involved, but it sounds like like this is like the rapper stuff seems to be like a specific thing, like a specific camp of this pervy entrapment party business, because you gotta like do dirt to like become the rich and powerful, and it sounds like you're not even like, that's not even really what happens in some cases. Like some people get money and are successful and rich, and then some people look like they're successful and rich, but they got like a 5-figure payment at the beginning of their careers, and then every rest of their output on albums, like the profits go mostly back to the record company or like the songwriters or whoever's got the licensing for the songs. But it sounds like if you don't go in there knowing what the hell is going on, you're probably going to get ripped off or physically abused, and I don't know if that can be avoided. Like, I have a relative that was a fairly well-known musician, and now I'm wondering, what the heck did he have to go through? Like, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to know. It makes me glad I'm like, I don't know. I like dropped that idea a long time ago, because before I got sick, my aim was to be a musician, and of course I wanted to be rich and famous. I didn't want to work at like a coffee shop or office. Like, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to sleep till 3 and drink and take drugs and smoke cigarettes and play music. Like, I thought it'd be all fun, of course I didn't understand addiction at all really at that time, and as time went on I began to understand like that is not a desirable thing, and personal experience taught me like not the best thing to pursue. So but it was like Eddie Vedder was kind of instrumental in my thinking, but it went 2 different ways, because the reason why I'm talking about him is because Pearl Jam was like not famous, and then they became hugely famous, and I was thinking, you got it, you succeeded, you did all of the things, so why are you so unhappy? Why are you complaining? But now I understand about like stalkers, and then just people with boundary issues and not enough sense to like let you eat your meal in peace. Like, who walks up to somebody while they're trying to eat with their people or person and asks them for an autograph? Like, fool, if you want, wait till they're done. Ask them outside. But that's not like something that I realized after the fact. That's always been the case. I've always thought that it is just rude to walk up to someone's table and stand there. You're not the waiter, and like, you're just or else you're just inserting yourself into someone's private time, basically. And I have learned that it can be so much worse than that. And then you hear about this stuff, and like, while I've been talking about it, I've been saying that it's not just this black thing, though. It's not just this rapper thing. And that's not even just all black. It is like all these other places, all of these bastions of horrible, these dens of iniquity. It's like they're AA places that, wherever you go as a famous person, you got to show up and like put in some time, I guess. I don't know. I'm just really speculating. I really and truly don't know, because, well, the news is just breaking so fast. Like every 20 minutes, there's another piece of information coming out about the rapper stuff. But it makes me wonder, like, is that going to catch fire with the other stuff? Because I remember a long time ago, what show was she on? It was before she did the head thing, I think, with Donald Trump, and like almost lost her whole career. But she was talking about those Hollywood parties that people go to, and she was given enough detail to let you know that like some unsavory, funky things were happening there, that they were not polite society things, you know. And oh well, she was talking to Bill Maher, so she must have been on his show. But at one point she was talking about that, and he was obviously trying to move her off of the subject. And I think the last thing she said before he made it clear, like, don't talk about that anymore, was that she said, well, talking about sexuality and his in particular, she saw, well, I remember seeing you, I'm paraphrasing, but I remember seeing you at one of those parties, and your sexuality was pretty fluid, and the look on his face was like the 7 stages of grief. And I think the look on her face was like, oh, might have gone too far. But, I mean, that just goes to show it's not just that one pocket of entertainment and people that apparently this, like, weird sex coercion gatekeeper, or as Damon Wilson calls it, I guess, overseer, which, sure, he had a whole long thought out explanation for why he feels overseer is the more appropriate word than gatekeeper, but it doesn't matter. It's still somebody that's got themselves in the way of your freedom. Your success depends on what they say or do to whoever they're in between you and of. It almost makes you just want to turn around and say, forget this. I don't want to do anything. Which, okay, so this brings me back to the Eddie Vedder. I don't know what, if anything, happened to him, because it seems like some people managed to escape it, but I don't know if that's true. Anyway, they had gotten successful, and he was just like complaining about his life, and I couldn't understand it. Now I better understand it. But back then I didn't know any of this stuff about the, you know, what you have to do to get where you want to go and what stands in your way of it. I was not aware of that. But I just, at first I was like, why are you complaining? Why are you whining? But then at some point I realized, like, wait a minute. Maybe he's maybe he's not just whining. Maybe there's something to it. So now I think there's something to it, because there's a lot of, I talked about it, there's a lot of things you have to worry about once you reach that level, and it does change your life, you know. And I saw something interesting that kind of plays into it, and it was like someone saying that someone got rich and then like didn't like have time for the friends anymore. But the thing about that is the person saying it is probably just the person that makes a person not want to be with them, because they're coming out with like, they expect something, they expect a certain type of behavior from this person, and they're not getting it, so they're like mad. And that to me is a red flag. That is a person that would have probably at some time have had their hand out, which I think you don't do with someone like this description of like a friend that gets rich. Because basically, let people offer you stuff. Like, if your friends have money, don't just automatically assume they're an ATM. So that's something that sounds like I don't want to have to deal with. And dadgummit, I've succeeded, because I don't have jack dilly. Nobody's coming around with their hand out around me. I did it. Anyway, so I pulled some cards. And from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck, I pulled the number 42 card, Netcaster. The depiction on the card is pretty self-explanatory. There is a woman there with a hat with a big red floral arrangement on it, apparently, casting a net. And then from the shaman, or the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit, animal spirit deck, I pulled the Stingray card. But see, I pulled the unicorn card yesterday, and I'm trying not to like be, I don't want to do that card because I feel like now I'm interfering with what I'm trying to do. So this popped out first. I just pulled this yesterday, and I shuffled. I shuffled yesterday, I shuffled today, and this came popping out. So just wanted to let you know that. And then the third card I pulled, it was from the angel card deck. Angel number deck, sorry. And it is the 0440 card. And it says, the gut feeling. Let's give you a little look at that. It's not very exciting. It's got a bunch of words. So, I feel like the Netcaster card is kind of like where I've been at. I'm just kind of like collecting all of this information about all of these things. And the thing about the net root word, it reminds me of a network. And casting, well, in an agricultural sense, you broadcast by tossing out your seeds into the soil. I don't think you do that with all seeds, but I think there's some where you just kind of throw them out there. And plants that grow in the ground, I'm not 100% on this, I'm just kind of getting a vision on it, but plants that grow in the ground like unimpeded by a pot or some sort of separation, their roots can like intermingle, and the reason for that would be communication. So that is a network. And so casting out this net, it's kind of like, I guess what I've been doing is collecting information. I'm not really having to cast for it. It's just like you look at something one time on YouTube and it's all you want, everything about this subject. But like I said, the information is breaking every moment, and I have said that I feel like there's going to be something more that's going to come out of all of this. And I don't mean like gossipy information. I mean that it's going to create a big something that all of us are affected by, all of us people. Like there's something to see and know about what's happening, like who it's happening to and why it's happening and why it's been able to go on, because it's the whispers of this kind of, like Hollywood has always had a bad reputation for abuse, basically. Like Demond Wilson, who was Lamont in Sanford and Son. For my other really old people, you might have to watch like Boomerang or I can't remember the name, but one of those older rerun channels that plays stuff from the 70s. But he was saying that shoot, are you kidding? Now I lost it. Shoot, I'm gonna have to come back to it. But, you know, like, I feel like there is some kind of something that, as a whole, humanity is going to learn from all of this that goes on. So I was saying what happens and who it happens to and who makes it happen. So he's the one that said the thing about it being more of a overseer than a gatekeeper situation. Man, he made a good point, and now I can't remember. Oh, well, anyways, I forgot to read the subtitle on this card because it will matter when I get back on track here. But the subtitle on the Netcaster card is Preparations Come to Fruition. So preparing for, like, collecting all this stuff. So you're preparing. You haven't gathered it. You haven't assessed it quite yet because you haven't gotten your catch. But boy, it's out there. And the Stingray card, for me, well, no, not just for me. It's what it says in the book. It represents, like, when you up level. And talking spirituality here, so nothing that happens in our world is not spiritual. Basically, because of the source of everything, source itself. I took some notes. I'm just going to read it. Maybe it'll help me come back to what I was saying about Damon Wilson. So, probably start at the beginning. I know it looks like a lot, but I'll get through it quickly. Do they just want to get caught? Durst, Diddy, other victims / abusers? I'm sure for many in these situations, Epstein, Hefner's Playboy Mansion, and there are more. Dens of iniquity. I'm pretty sure that's the operative term. I have to look it up. Yep, searched it, and that is the case. Basically, where stuff that's happening in these mansion parties is happening. Oh, now I remember. Because that was the term that Damon Wilson used, was mansion parties, and he went back to Fatty Arbuckle. So, if you know the story of Fatty Arbuckle, he was a silent movie actor, and he was at one of these debauchery parties, and like Damon Wilson said, a mansion party. So, and that's where they are repeated to happen, and then there's rooms with stuff going on, and I guess that's like for more hardcore stuff that just can't take place in the open, or people want privacy. I don't know. Not my scene. But Arbuckle was with some woman, and they were like getting it on or whatever, and she ended up with a bottle up inside her woman parts that like broke, and she got all sliced up and ended up, I think she bled to death, or wait, maybe she died of like sepsis or something, but she ended up dying. And he went to trial. None of the information, well, I mean, they weren't like hiding that there was a wild party going on. I think it was at William Hearst's house, actually, Hearst Castle, which that guy was a publisher, and you'd think that, like, well, that's like a pretty straight up, respectable type of guy, but he's having these parties at his house, so I don't know, like, you gotta really, like, look and then look again, like, what are you really looking at? Because appearances are deceiving. So there was a trial after that happened, and he was basically exonerated and acquitted, but it was too late. The press was really bad, and he had a stink on him, and none of the studios really wanted to work with him. He did eventually get back to work, but he had been rich and famous, and he died a pauper, and everybody just still thought he was a weird murderer. So that's a public perception that, oh, it was a mistake, and he, like, whatever happened, it wasn't like what we heard, because, stuff goes through the public telephone system game, and everybody kind of puts their spin on whatever they're telling, and it just gradually loses cohesion from the original historical content. It just turns into, like, that ain't what really happened. It's so off. It's so messed up. But, like, since then and over time, even though it's like, okay, over time it gets covered up. So, and the cover-ups go deep and high. Like, I guess somehow, or, the lawyers, whatever it was, they made him come out, like, not looking and smelling as bad as it seemed. But here comes Damon Wilson today what, I don't even know how many years later, 70, 80 years later, he's like, oh, no, exactly what they said happened. He was like, it's the same thing that is happening today at those Diddy parties as was happening then. That was not one of Diddy's parties. In fact, if there were any black people there, they were either part of the entertainment or part of the help. They weren't party goers. God. So it may seem like oh my God, that is all so awful, but here's the thing, it is all happening, and we're a part of it for a reason, karma, right? Let me just do this. So often I wonder how those of us with the inclination to drug, coerce, and physically abuse others for any reason, I just wonder how will they be affected by the shift or the event or even the rapture, which some people are also thinking are the three are the same thing, I guess. What will happen to murderers and serial murderers, any recidivist criminal really, kidnappers, robbers, burglars, white-collar thieves, whatever? For a while I've wondered what their reaction will be. Will they stop on their own? Here's the thing. It seems that to shift, to awaken, definitely there seems to be, it needs to happen with our willing participation. Seriously, have you ever tried to tell or impress upon someone who doesn't want to hear it or tell them something? Can't really make someone listen when they aren't ready to hear it, right? So it's not our job or business to worry about anyone else's spiritual transformation or any kind of transformation. It's literally on the individual to make a transformation. Here's what I found to be encouraging. Eventually, everyone will make the transition, the transformation, in their own time, which sounds a lot better than being a terrible sinner left behind. The reason everyone isn't expected to awaken simultaneously, because we won't all be at the same stage of development. It's like the difference between an adult and an infant, cognitively. And that's by design. I mean, I'm just freeballing, but that seems to be the case. The scary ones, though, what of them? What I've gotten so far is that was the compelling information that, as far as that was the compelling information that once we awaken, or even now in this time, we can do it. We don't have to die and reincarnate a bunch of times. We can shift ourselves. We don't have to be waiting around for the whole group or whatever, which is not to say that's not to say you're going to separate and exclude yourself. I would think that would help accelerate things. One less person in the churn that has to make the transition. Maybe it'll just make it a little bit of a lighter job for people that aren't quite through doing that. So once we awaken, or even now in this time, we can end our karmic cycles, which, as I understand it, means the scary ones were doing. What the scary ones were doing was playing out the life lessons they want to live out or experience. Karma. Even in all of the horrible nature of living out a karma that scares us, or worse, if we end up the victim, traumatizes us. The thing to remember is that with a life blueprint, mapping out the lives we'll have prior to birth, that's our karma. That is karma. What we came here to do, it's called karma. Evidently, Once one truly awakens, that karma can be considered paid or played out and completed. Now, I don't know what that looks like, but I'm burningly curious. Will I be here to see it? Or will it happen when or will I still be alive when it happens? No big if not. I can choose to come back. It sounds like I can, particularly if your own karma here isn't done. Although I don't know, maybe you can like finish it somewhere else in a different setting. I don't know. Haven't got there yet. Ow. I have found what I say get questioned. So I will submit that my sources are channeled messages from the angelic realm, ascended masters, and other non-corporeal entities, and even ETs and extra-dimensional beings. I would start writing something else, but then I didn't finish. But I wrote, not everyone is at a place that I guess that they're ready to ascend, and because it is definitely a process. Like, you wake up, you become aware of all of these things. If you start to incorporate meditation into your life too, then that opens up all kinds of things and makes a lot of changes in us. And so it becomes this goal, like this brass ring that you always want, this unattainable like dream almost of like utopia and nirvana and happiness, and evidently that is what you can go and experience in the heaven. So, like faith, the unicorn is something that you just gotta believe exists and not see it to make it a reality. And I mean, people will say, I gotta see it to believe it. I think you can't see it until you believe that it can be. How can you see something that you don't believe exists? So the unicorn kind of represents that, like the sort of goal that you can't like see or touch really. Until you go through some stages and you just gotta like trust and believe that such a thing exists and that it's there for us to aspire to. So when I started talking about this, I brought up something that's been with me for a while that I've been trying to reckon with. And I'm going to have to probably talk about it more often because I'm not going to have enough time. But I shared that I have like a prejudice for black people, of which obviously I'm one. And I'm related to many and have friends that are many. And I don't want that to be misunderstood. Like, it's something that I'm processing about myself as I move through this awakening process. And it's like what I was just saying. It's something that I was aware of, but with meditation and that sort of like changes your outlook. It's given me something else to look at, and it's less about the other people than it is about myself. But the main thing is personally, I experienced a thing that I hear talked about in spiritual circles a lot, which is like, you feel like you're an alien and you're from another planet and you want to go there because it's home, and you feel out of place here and you're uncomfortable and wah. I don't have all that. Not like that, I should say. I do have that about my experience as a black person because of the way that I grew up. That separates me from my family. my mother was Caucasian, her mother was Caucasian. I don't know what her father, my mother's father, was like, because he is the person whose name can never be spoken. Like, I literally have never learned his name. So, I don't know what happened there. And I'm not going to speculate on it right now, but white, okay? Father's family, black. Varying shades, all in the same family. Not really that unusual if you know any black families, and it doesn't necessarily mean that anybody was getting it on with the milkman or anything. You just never, it's like puppies. You never know how people are going to come out of the same batch. But for various reasons, I have felt like a separation that I didn't really understand until I grew up and had more adult context to my life and life in general. So it was something that is between me and my family, I feel. I don't think that they would ever articulate it in the way that I have. I don't think they would look at it in the way that I have, but they do not have my experience, and that's what people need to remember, is that you don't know what it really feels like for some things. Like, you could have an idea, but to live your life where you feel like you're in between, like, white society and black society, and you're like, where am I supposed to be? And I don't worry about it too much, like I was saying, like the E.T., like, I need to go back to my planet. I don't have that, like, yearning, painful desire about it. It's just like a thing that is part of my life. And the people that I'm talking about, that I experience the things that make me have the feelings with, I don't think they realize that they're doing it. Like, I definitely don't think anyone's doing anything on purpose. I mean, other stuff, but not this thing. But, you know, there it is. There's a lot of stuff that we grow up with, that we're conditioned with, that it doesn't even occur to us that it's like a thing that maybe is not cool to do. So I feel like, for me, that is like the hard thing that I'm having to go through right now. And it's kind of been helped along by hearing all this gnarly, nasty stuff, because it is kind of gnarly, nasty stuff that I am personally going through, that I'm not talking to anybody that I'm, like, personally related to about this stuff. I'm not really talking to any of them at all. They don't talk to me, which is, like, part of the thing. Like, why? Never mind. It's part of the thing. And it's just something that I have to deal with, but I'm dealing with it also with other people, you know, present or not. It's like part of it. And that is also true of these people in this whole, like, cycle of abuse and success and power and money and sex. It's this weird amalgam of, I don't know, freak monster. And, you know, the people going through it, I mean, everybody involved in that is going through it. You can see it. The people talking about it, the people that were the subject of it, the people that were caught up in it. It's like, it's very emotional. If you have a care for another human being, it's like, it's touching in not a nice, happy, semi melancholy way. It's not like sweet and pretty and happy, but sometimes life just isn't that. And that is why I feel like I will just go up and examine that and look at it, because I don't think it can be avoided. I think that these things have to be dealt with, even if they're evil. Like, you don't have to, like, maybe go charging after it, but if it's in your life at all, I think that you can't run away from it. You can't hide from it. If you're afraid of it, then what you're afraid of, I think, will get you. You know, like, I feel like you have to have your eyes really open about things. So this is like a gnarly lesson for a lot of, like, a collective of people to be going through. But it's also, like, amazing and, like, this giant achievement. So the angel card I pulled, it's the 0440 card, and the subtitle is the gut feeling. So intuition. A lot of people knew that something was up with, like, all of these famous people, like a lot of drug problems, a lot of erratic psychological behavior. And if you look at Quiet on Set, that Nickelodeon doc about the pervs on that set, where they literally told the parents that they could not be on that set where their kids were, and look what happened. Like, if you haven't seen that, let's just say it's more of the same, like I was talking about with the Diddy stuff, but most of these people are not black people, so you can't just say, oh, it's just those perverts over there, them rappers, those people. It's not just them, but it sounds like there's a lot of people involved in it that don't want to do the stuff that they are expected to do, I guess. So in a lot of cases, listening to this stuff, some people immediately, intuition, they sniffed it. They were like, something ain't right here. And that will save you. Like, that is, I think, why we have it for, maybe that's not why we have it, but it don't hurt to help us be, like, you know, hyper aware, or like just sort of prepared for the unknown, you know. Betrayal, pessimism, that whole gatekeeper mansion party cycle. You go in there, a young, innocent, damn near child in some of these stories, and you get passed around, and not just in the nasty way, but like every way. Like, you get used in entertainment. Everyone wants to make something off of you or take a piece of you. You hear people say that all the time. It's right there in front of our faces. So you work all this time, or maybe your parents put you there, and then you find yourself a lot of times in a position where you're alone in a situation that you, as a child, definitely shouldn't be in. As a person alone without protection, it's not great for you to be in. And apparently, entertainment is just riddled with that crap, like, around every turn. So I can see how that would give you betrayal, pessimism. You would probably be expecting it. Relating. Well, throughout all of this, there's all kinds of people, like the people that are hurt by these situations can relate to each other. And I think one aspect about it that I haven't talked about much is that people around it that talk or write a book have turned up dead around Diddy, but it's other stuff too. I heard a lot of it at first from the Q people, where, like, you know, they think David Carradine did something, and that's how he ended up dead in such a humiliating way. Because for most people, like, erotic throat throttling is weird, and you wouldn't do it. And so a couple of people went that way. Him and Michael Stipe, sorry, Michael Hutchins from INXS went out the same way. And at that time, I think it was just shock. But when it happened again, people were kind of like, oh, intuition kicked in. Like, what the hell's going on with these people? And then afterwards, comes the, well, he had this problem and he had that problem and he was this way and that way and that's why the drugs. But I'm wondering if the obligation to achieve what you maybe spent your life wanting to do, or maybe your parents put you in, somehow you end up in there, but it ends up being an unpleasant, hurtful, scary place to be. So I'm sure there's a lot of people that can now feel like, you know, one person is out there talking about it, another person is out there talking about it. And my feeling is this: if everybody starts talking about it and giving up what they know, they can't, whoever the they is, they can't go around killing everybody. You know, like I said, there's a lot of death around this one guy, and investigations, if they're finally done, are gonna end up leading maybe to this person, because it's just weird that so many dead people keep turning up around him. And it's weird that they're all writing tell-all books and turning up dead. I'm sensing a pattern. So value, it's a hard lesson, but you know, there's a lot to be gained from it. Like, for one thing, forgiveness. If we can forgive, all of us involved or not involved, just, you know, even the observers amongst us, like myself, if we can forgive us, we can forgive them. Like, how can you blame someone that is, for one thing, drugged, for one thing, like basically Stockholm syndromed and also kept captive mentally? You know, it's like those relationships where there's domestic violence and people are like, the woman should leave, the woman should leave, the woman should take the kids and leave. Like, there's all these considerations that the people not in the situation are not taken into consideration. Like, you don't know, you know. The best you can do is, you know, wish people the best. Offer them help when they ask for it, or when you see that they are needed, like maybe they're like in danger and it's your opportunity to save them, you know. And then the people in the situations that get hurt, that get betrayed, they have to well, I moved ahead some or something. They have to find like something good out of it. I know it sounds horrible, but sometimes we have bad experiences, like really bad ones, and then later on, once all of that sort of hurt and anger and fear have kind of dissipated and you can think straight again, you maybe very possibly will have learned or gained some insight that is useful going forward, and that's valuable. It's a component of clearing your karma. It's valuable. It's good. Like, it's why you're here. And so insight, like I said, bad thing can happen, and then time goes by and all of the high charged emotions dissipate and you get insight from it. You find out like what was useful from the experience and how can it help you and maybe other people going forward, since you now know this. Increased perception. Well, boy, I'll tell you what, doesn't fear like turn on all of your perceptions, like the deep desire to stay intact and alive and all of that. And then, you know, like the difference I said between like an infant and an adult cognitively, and that process you go from there to there, like from infancy to adulthood, and all of the stuff you learn over time, that it develops, you know, because I have found I'll learn something and relearn it a bunch of times and get something different every time. So, and that I believe comes with increased perception, like maturity and age and experience. I feel like that's how you get increased perception, or like your fear, your fight or flight will crank that up. Love. In all of that ugliness that I've been talking about, there's a lot of talk of love, but in some areas it doesn't seem very loving, except for the fact that everyone is going through the experience with each other to come back to love, to level up, to forgive, to understand, to perceive not just your own situation, but also the other people at whatever station of this situation that I'm talking about. Just understand that, like, yeah, on one level it's bad, they're bad, but on another level it's not. It is just something that the one source wanted to experience for some ungodly reason. Oh, well, I don't know, ungodly, godly, for some weird reason. But the spin that we put on it, the conditioning that we have, like, you get at some point to a level where a lot of that starts to drop away because it's unnecessary, and then you also have increased perception. You begin to perceive and experience things differently. So, I feel like that comes with time, but the goal of everyone going through that with each other, like all of the horribleness, the experiencing of the events, or just the feeling of seeing, the intense emotion of seeing people you care about go through these things, there's love. So even mixed in all that weird, scary ugliness is love. But the ultimate goal is to go through it. I mean, the achievement is to go through it with each other and, like, experience it however it goes, and hold each other up or tear each other down. Whatever your role ends up being in the whole production, the healing of it, the fixing things, is meant to bring us back to our state of love, which is, well, I mean, it's how we start out as babies, unless we're, like, mistreated. Babies want love, kids want love, adults want love. We respond to it. In the best case scenarios, we respond positively to it. And then the final word here from this section is monogamy. Wow. Simpler, maybe, sounds like, because all this other stuff is real complicated. A lot of work has to take place. A lot of stuff has to be gone through and experienced and felt, and it's a whole thing. Like, maybe just stick to one relationship. And there's a whole nother set of lessons and life learnings there too. And so the final bit on this card, the text says, follow your gut. It's more than just a feeling. Be real with people and focus on meaningful relationships. Remember, you also must bring value to the table. Treat others with respect, or else karma will bite your ass. 3 is a crowd. Okay, so this is an angel card, and that being the case, it's going to be a channeled message. And something else I've been talking about, which I'm sure is not going over great with certain people, is my outlook on, like, what the Bible says and what it expects of us, and how that's been evolving. But not just, out of my own, I guess, egoic whatever. it's like I've been getting an inkling of it, like an intuition, and then here comes Cryon all the time backing me up on my 6. So, yeah. The monogamy, there's lots of people having relationships now that are unusual, thruples, and I don't even know what else, sister wives. And the thing is to hear the ETs talk about this stuff, because people will ask, like, Sterling psychic, people will ask Sterling psychic medium, who I like to visit every week on Sundays when he has his shows, because he accepts questions that are submitted from people, and then because he's a psychic, he can just answer them for people. So what the hell was I just gonna say? Why did I start talking about that? Oh, he is asked all the time, are ETs homosexuals, or do people on other planets have homosexual relationships? And he says that yes, and there's all kinds of other relationships, just like the types that are starting to show up with us, and they do not have our attitudes about same-sex. They do not have our attitudes about pretty much anything, and we wouldn't either if we were not here. But that's part of the layout. That's part of the whole construct for our karmas that we worked out in our blueprints, our life blueprints prior to birth. These are things that we signed up to do and go through and live out, and therefore, like, work through the karma. And the karma's interesting because, again, like, if we're like these remote sort of guy agents, or God is a man word, I guess the one source doesn't really care for that particular moniker, so I guess I'm going to stop doing that if I can remember. But it's been a lifetime of thinking of that particular entity with that name, so it might take a minute. But evidently, like, all of the stuff that we're worried about and so concerned about, like we can't even let people, like, we can't even be heterosexual and leave people that are homosexual alone. Like, we can't just let them alone to live their life. Like, we gotta interfere and get all upset. It's like, why? No one's doing that to you. Go away. Leave people alone. Let people live their lives. But anyway, back to Spirit and the ETs. No, they don't have our hang-ups, basically. Like, love is love. If you love someone, that's it. So, I find that comforting and instrumental, even though I'm heterosexual, so I'm not going to run into the type of problems that other people have. Although I have been mistaken for a homosexual many times by homosexuals and not. And by my own family, like, they just don't want to believe that I know if I'm gay or not, which is crazy. Because if I were, I wouldn't be, like, trying to hide it. What a pain. Like, just, there's enough junctures in life where stuff is a pain. Like, why would I make more for myself? Anyway, that is basically what I wanted to talk about. Oh my gosh, I'm going long. Oh, I'm reading more cards, so it just takes a little longer. But I guess I'm done. I guess I got it all out there. I'll be back with more, I'm sure. Because, like I said, the situation is ongoing. And now I'm invested in the part where the healing begins. When all of the screaming and yelling and outrage is over. And the justice has been served. And then people can settle down and process it all, without all of the fears and stuff getting in the way and all of that. So, looking forward to that. This is such an adventure. Okay, I'm done. Thank you and good night.